There are moments in the chronicles of mankind when fear itself seems to take form, when the earth trembles not from storms or earthquakes, but from the thunder of hooves. In the 13th century, such terror bore a name that froze the blood of kings and peasants alike: the Mongol Empire. They were not simply conquerors, they were a force of nature. From the frozen rivers of the Russian steppes to the golden deserts of Persia, from the walls of China to the forests of Eastern Europe, their banners swept across the world like wildfire. Empires fell, cities burned, and entire civilizations crumbled into dust. And yet in the distant south stood one city that made even the Mongols hesitate: Delhi, the jewel of the subcontinent, the heart of India's wealth, trade, and spirit. And in the year 1299, at a place called Kili, this city became the stage for a clash that would echo through centuries. Under the searing Indian sun, war elephants advanced like living mountains, their tusks gilded, their hides armored in steel. Cavalrymen charged through dust and flame, their lances glinting in the light. On that field, the fate of India trembled, the might of the Mongol Empire against the defiant warriors of the Delhi Sultanate. It was more than a battle. It was a declaration that even the most feared empire on earth could bleed. It was the day the Mongols first learned to fear the south. For decades, the Mongols had moved like a storm of iron across Eurasia. Cities that had once glowed with light, incense, and poetry now lay in ruins beneath their hooves. The names of Glory, Merv, Nishapur, Herat, Urgench were reduced to whispers and ashes. Chroniclers record that during Genghis Khan's Persian campaign of 1222, nearly 6 million lives were lost, 1.5% of humanity at the time. A number almost unimaginable for an age without cannons or gunpowder. For the Mongols, war was not just conquest, it was the art of annihilation. Their goal was to shatter not only walls, but the very memory of resistance. They burned temples, libraries, and cities so completely that the survivors carried only silence. To resist them was to invite extinction. To surrender was to live under a shadow that devoured hope itself. By the mid-13th century, the world had splintered into chaos. The once united Mongol Empire had divided into 4 colossal khanates. The Great Khanate at Karakorum, the Ilkhanate in Persia, the Golden Horde ruling the Russian plains, and the Chagatai Khanate straddling Central Asia, a frontier that reached the borders of India itself. To the west, Muslim dynasties crumbled under Mongol pressure. In the east, the ancient Song dynasty gasped its final breath before falling to Mongol rule. Europe, Byzantium, and even the Middle East reeled under their weight. And in the south, the Indian subcontinent, vast, rich, and divided, awaited its trial by fire. India in that era was a mosaic of kingdoms, faiths, and ambitions. Hindu rajas ruled ancient fortresses. Buddhist monasteries still echoed faintly with prayer, and new Muslim dynasties rose on the shoulders of conquest. Amid this diversity stood the Delhi Sultanate, a young yet ambitious empire forged from the conquest of the Ghurids and ruled by the slave-born dynasties of the Mamluks. It controlled much of northern India, but its unity was brittle. Rajput rebellions simmered at its edges, and the distant provinces, Bengal, Gujarat, the Deccan, yearned for independence. Yet despite this fragility, Delhi stood as the beating heart of India's power, a glittering city on the banks of the Yamuna River, alive with trade, art, and faith. From Delhi's bazaars flowed silks fine as breath, spices that perfumed the air of distant lands, and gold that dazzled the merchants of Persia and Egypt. In return came war horses from Arabia, curved blades from Damascus, and luxuries from every corner of the known world. To the Mongols, who owned no cities, tilled no fields, and lived their lives in the saddle, Delhi was the ultimate prize. It was not just wealth they sought this time, but dominion. The Chagatai Khanate dreamed of raising its banner over Delhi's palaces, of claiming the subcontinent as part of their eternal empire. And so began a conflict few had predicted, an unequal contest between the empire that had conquered half the world and a sultanate still testing the strength of its foundations. For India, this was not merely a war for survival, it was a trial of identity. The Delhi Sultanate was a realm unlike any other. Within its borders, Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, and Jainism coexisted in both harmony and friction. Society was divided by caste, creed, and custom. The proud Rajput lords of Rajasthan clung fiercely to their independence, while in the distant provinces, whispers of rebellion lingered. It was a kingdom of brilliance built upon fragile unity, and the Mongols were about to test every seam. Then, from the chaos, rose one man, Ghiyas Balban, a man born not into privilege, but into struggle. Once a slave, later a vizier, and eventually a ruler whose vision would shape the destiny of India. Balban understood something his peers did not. The Mongols could not be appeased. Tribute only whetted their appetite. The only answer was strength, a wall of iron that would make even the steppe horsemen think twice. Under Balban's orders, Delhi transformed from a city of commerce into a fortress of stone and resolve. Along the vulnerable northwestern frontier, he commanded the building of a chain of mighty fortresses from Lahore to Multan, from Yuk to Samama, each with towering ramparts, deep moats, and high watchtowers scanning the horizon for dust clouds of approaching riders. But Balban did not stop at fortifications. He knew that walls could crumble, but warriors could endure. He reformed the army from the ground up, blending traditional Indian valor with the cunning of the steppes. For the first time, the ranks opened to both freeborn soldiers and the slave warrior elite. Exiles and mercenaries from Central Asia, veterans of the endless Mongol civil wars, found refuge in Delhi, bringing with them the art of mounted archery, the precision of steppe tactics, and the deadly rhythm of feigned retreats and sudden ambushes. Delhi soldiers learned not just to fight, but to think like their enemy. Among them rose forgotten heroes, men like Ulu Khan, a Turkic commander who became the backbone of Delhi's western frontier, and former Karakaitai generals who had lost their homelands but found purpose under Balban's banner. They carried the grief of exile, the hunger for vengeance, and the discipline of the steppes. Together, they forged an army that was no longer merely defensive, but strategic, an army that would make the Mongols pay dearly for every step they dared to take. Along Delhi's borders, the clang of hammers and the neigh of horses filled the air. Fortresses rose, roads were cleared, scouts rode farther than ever before. The northwestern plains became a living wall, one that would soon be tested by fire. But destiny was not yet done with them. Beyond those walls, across the burning horizon of Central Asia, the Mongol storm was gathering again, faster, fiercer, and closer than anyone could imagine. In the year 1285, the Mongols once again hurled their might toward the gates of India. Their target was the province of Punjab, a fertile, war-scarred frontier that had long stood as the shield of the Delhi Sultanate. The defense was fierce and desperate. Amid the clash of steel and the roar of war elephants, a tragedy unfolded that would sear itself into the memory of the empire. Prince Muhammad, the beloved son of Sultan Balban, rode at the front lines, barely in his 20s, with a scholar's grace but the soul of a warrior. When panic rippled through the ranks, the young prince raised his sword and charged forward, urging his men to stand firm. His courage rekindled their spirit, but it also led him straight into the storm. Amid the chaos, he fell, struck down as he led a counterattack that would repel the invaders but cost him his life. The death of Prince Muhammad was more than a personal loss. It was a wound carved into the heart of an empire. Balban, who had built his life and rule upon discipline and iron resolve, was said to have aged years overnight. He never recovered from the grief. Yet in that loss lay a deeper revelation. The Delhi Sultanate was no longer afraid. It had stood, bled, and prevailed against the world's most fearsome warriors. For the first time, the Mongols had been stopped not by walls, but but by will. When Balban passed away in 1287, he left behind not just a kingdom, but a doctrine, a philosophy forged from hardship. His system of interlocking fortresses along the frontier, his reformed army that blended steppe tactics with Indian valor, and his belief in proactive defense all became the cornerstone of Delhi's survival. The empire he left was far from perfect. Its borders were sprawling and porous, its provinces restless, and its noble houses divided. Yet beneath those cracks lay something unbreakable, an iron determination to defend their homeland, no matter the cost. That fragile shield of Delhi, held together by loyalty, loss, and ambition, would soon face its greatest test. The storm that had long brewed beyond the Hindu Kush was gathering once more, and this time it came with a name: Dua Khan. Dua Khan, ruler of the Chagatai Khanate, was one of the most formidable heirs to the Mongol legacy. His dominions stretched across Central Asia, a vast land of deserts and mountains once ruled by Genghis Khan himself. To the north, he faced the Golden Horde. To the west, the Ilkhanate of Persia. Both were his rivals, both dangerous. The only direction left to expand, the only unclaimed jewel still shining on the horizon, was south. And to the south lay India. To Dua Khan, Delhi was more than a rich city. It was a gateway, the bridge between the east and west. Across the Indus flowed caravans heavy with spices, silk, ivory, gems, and knowledge. The Sultanate's ports connected worlds. Its markets glittered with treasures that no steppe could produce. To seize Delhi would mean controlling the arteries of trade that fed 3 continents. But for Dua, conquest was not just about wealth, it was about legacy. He sought to carve his name beside his ancestors, to prove that the breath of the wolf, as the Mongols called their divine drive to conquer, still lived in him. And so, the Khan turned his gaze toward India with predatory hunger. This was not rumor or exaggeration. History records that throughout the 1290s, Dua launched repeated raids across the Indus River, testing Delhi's defenses. His forces struck the Punjab frontier again and again, each time meeting fierce resistance from commanders Ulugh Khan and Zafar Khan, 2 of the Delhi court's most seasoned generals. Their victories were costly but decisive, yet rather than discourage Dua, they only sharpened his desire. Each defeat became a lesson, each retreat a promise to return stronger. In return, he did. In the winter of 1299, Dua Khan unleashed his most ambitious campaign yet. He entrusted command to his son, Kutluf Khwaja, the brightest star of the Chagatai army, a general famed across the steppes for his speed, discipline, and ruthlessness. This time, Dua's army was no raiding band. It was an invasion force, an elite corps of Mongol cavalry, hardened in the deserts of Transoxiana, armed with the precision of decades of conquest. For 6 months, they marched like a silent tide across the plains of Afghanistan and into northern India. But unlike earlier raids, they did not loot, burn, or terrorize the villages they passed. Their discipline was unnerving. Scouts reported that the Mongol formations remained perfectly ordered, their banners unwavering, their horses unbroken by exhaustion. They bypassed border forts at Multan and Samama, ignoring smaller garrisons. Their goal was clear. They were heading straight for Delhi. When Kutluf Khwaja's vanguard reached the open plains of Kili, scarcely 10 kilometers from the capital, panic erupted like wildfire. Farmers and merchants fled from the villages along the Yamuna River, driving their cattle and carts toward the city walls. Temples and mosques filled with terrified prayers. Delhi, once a city of music, trade, and poetry, fell into an uneasy silence, waiting for the storm to break. But what made the moment truly perilous was that Sultan Alauddin Khalji, the young and fiery ruler of Delhi, was unprepared. The Mongol incursion had moved too swiftly, too quietly. By the time word reached the capital, the enemy was already across the Indus, advancing through Punjab. According to the 14th century historian Isami, Alauddin had scarcely a fortnight to prepare for one of the most decisive battles in Indian history. There was no time for diplomacy. Messengers galloped through the night, bearing urgent orders to every province to gather men, horses, and supplies. The Sultan established his war camp at Siri, on the banks of the Yamuna River, a position chosen with both strategy and symbolism in mind. From there, he could defend the capital and, if necessary, ride out to meet the invaders head-on. Inside the palace, tension rose like heat from the desert floor. In the war council, voices clashed. Many courtiers, including Alauddin's own uncle and the Kotwal of Delhi, Alauddin Mulk, urged negotiation. Offer gold, they said. Offer silver. Spare the city and preserve the throne. But the Sultan's answer was fire. If we bow today, he declared, then tomorrow we shall no longer have a crown to wear. He knew the Mongols too well, and he knew his people were watching. A young monarch who had seized power by sword could not afford to show fear. One sign of weakness, and Delhi would splinter before the enemy even arrived. To retreat now would mean not only the loss of the city, but the loss of the Sultanate's soul. So Alauddin made his choice. He would meet the Mongols in the open field on his own terms. Before departing, he entrusted Alauddin Mulk with the defense of Delhi, commanding him to seal the city gates. Only one gate, the Balban Gate, was to remain open as an escape route if fate turned cruel. Guard it, he said, for only victory will reopen the rest. And with that, the young Sultan rode out toward the plains of Kili, toward history, and toward the clash that would decide whether India would stand or fall before the wrath of the Mongols. Late autumn, 1299. The air above the plains of Kili, just 10 kilometers from Delhi, hung thick and still, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Two armies stood poised beneath a fading sun. Two civilizations, two destinies, two unyielding ambitions locked in a struggle that would decide the fate of India. To the north, the Mongol host stretched across the horizon, a dark sea of banners and steel. 50 to 60,000 cavalrymen, veterans of countless conquests, their horses restless and snorting beneath armor that shimmered like liquid bronze. At the center rode Kutluf Khwaja, son of Dilwa Khan and heir to the Chagatai legacy, his expression calm but burning with purpose. On his left wing stood Hylak, a ruthless general known for his precision strikes. On the right, Tamar Buga, master of flanking maneuvers. Behind them, hidden in the tall grass, a reserve of 10,000 men under the cunning Tari, waiting to spring a deadly ambush when the moment came. They had journeyed for months from the steppes of Central Asia, across Bactria and the Kabul River Valley, through Multan and Lahore, deliberately avoiding the heavily fortified cities along the way. Their march was not one of fire and terror, as in past raids. This time there was strategy, discipline, purpose. They were here not to loot, but to conquer. The road from the northwest to the capital lay open before them. The Mongols could already see, in their minds, the domes of Delhi gleaming in the distance. Facing them was an army unlike any they had ever fought, the forces of the Delhi Sultanate, commanded by Sultan Alauddin Khalji himself. 70,000 strong, a blend of cavalry, infantry, and 700 massive war elephants clad in iron armor, tusks capped with steel, and wooden towers mounted upon their backs. The elephants stood like moving fortresses, their trumpets shaking the air. In the center of the Delhi formation, Alauddin took command personally, flanked by his trusted generals. Nusrat Khan on the left, Zafar Khan on the right, the Lion of Delhi, known for his courage and temper alike. Ahead of the Sultan's banner rode Akat Khan, leading the vanguard, while Ulu Khan held the reserve at the rear. The battlefield was a paradox of motionless tension. The Mongols, supreme masters of the open field, faced an army fortified by faith and discipline. Alauddin, remembering the lessons of Balban and the cunning of his enemies, gave a single iron order. No one will break formation, no pursuit, no mercy for disobedience. He knew well the Mongol trick of the feigned retreat, the false flight that lured armies to ruin. Countless foes across Asia had fallen for it. He would not. But courage, once ignited, can defy command. When the Mongol left wing under Hylak began to withdraw, pretending to crumble, Zafar Khan saw what he believed was the chance for glory. He urged his horse forward, shouting to his men, "Delhi rides with me." His troops, loyal to a fault, followed. At first, his pursuit was calculated, formation intact. But when the Mongols continued to flee, taunting and scattering dust in their wake, Zafar Khan pressed harder, driving nearly 50 kilometers beyond the support of the main army. And then the trap was sprung. From both flanks, Tari's hidden divisions burst from the grass like shadows made flesh, encircling the Delhi riders. Realizing too late that he had been deceived, Zafar Khan refused to retreat. He gathered his remaining 1,000 cavalrymen, the last of his vanguard, and vowed to die standing. The Mongols closed in from all sides, arrows whistling like locusts. Yet the Delhi soldiers fought as if possessed, striking with ferocity born of desperation. Contemporary chronicles claim they cut down over 5,000 Mongol horsemen before being overwhelmed, a staggering number for such a small band. At one point, Kutluf Khwaja himself halted the fighting, sending word that Zafar Khan could surrender and be treated as an honored guest, perhaps even brought before the Khanate as a man of worth. But the general spat upon the offer. "Better a blade in the heart than a chain of gold," he replied. Moments later, a Mongol arrow found its mark. It was Hylak, the commander of the left wing, who loosed the fatal shot. Zafar Khan fell beside his horse, clutching his sword until his fingers stiffened in death. His fall shook the Delhi ranks, but not their discipline. Back at Kili, Alauddin's main army held firm. The elephants did not break formation. The archers rained fire upon advancing Mongol scouts, and the cavalry maintained their defensive lines. The Sultan's composure steadied his troops, and for the first time, the Mongols found themselves facing an enemy that did not fall for their traps. Days passed in tense skirmishes. Neither side dared to risk a full assault. The Mongols had lost too many men. The Delhi army, though bloodied, still stood like a wall of iron. On the third night, Kutluf Khwaja quietly ordered the withdrawal. The Mongols vanished into the darkness, leaving behind the dead, the wounded, and the bitter realization that India was not the easy prize they had imagined. The plains of Kili were left scarred, the ground littered with broken lances, shattered shields, and the bodies of men and horses alike. But Delhi still stood. For the first time in their history, the Mongols had been turned back without fire, without tribute, without victory. And in their retreat, Kutluf Khwaja carried with him not treasure, but the weight of failure. Thousands of elite horsemen were lost, the price of a dream undone. Yet Dua Khan's ambition did not die with that defeat. In 1303, he sent another host, 120,000 Mongol cavalry, to crush Delhi once and for all. But by then, Alauddin Khalji had transformed the capital into a fortress unlike any before. Around Delhi rose the great citadel of Siri, its walls of stone thick enough to withstand siege engines, surrounded by trenches, moats, and barricades. Villages were evacuated, bridges destroyed, and the countryside stripped bare to deny the invaders supplies. When the Mongols arrived, they found not a city of merchants, but a fortress of ghosts. Behind the walls, Delhi's people endured hunger and fear, yet they held. The siege dragged on for 2 months, until the invaders, weakened by disease and starvation, were forced to retreat. Their empire of conquest had found a wall it could not break. 2 more invasions followed. In 1305, another 50,000 Mongol horsemen crossed the frontier, only to be crushed by the Sultan's General Malik Nayak, whose relentless cavalry pursuit turned the battlefield into a slaughter. Then in 1306, Dua Khan launched his final desperate campaign, but this time Malik Kafur, Alauddin's most brilliant commander, intercepted the enemy near the Ravi and Nagaur rivers. The Mongol force was surrounded, shattered, and driven north in ruin. Never again would their banners darken Indian skies. Had Delhi fallen that first year, the course of history would have turned grim beyond measure. The fate that befell Persia and Central Asia, cities erased, libraries burned, cultures extinguished, would have been India's fate as well. The Qutb Minar, the royal palaces, the mosques of Merali, all would have been reduced to dust. The royal libraries that held centuries of Persian, Arab, and Sanskrit knowledge might have burned like Baghdad's House of Wisdom, their ink turning the rivers black. The artisans, scholars, and merchants of the Ganges plain could have vanished in massacre or enslavement, leaving India fragmented, its cultural heart torn out. But Delhi endured. The courage of men like Zafar Khan, the iron will of Alauddin Khalji, and the unity of soldiers who refused to yield had preserved more than a city. They had preserved a civilization. The defeat of the Mongols at Kili marked not just a military triumph, but a civilizational stand, a declaration that faith, discipline, and courage could outlast terror. In the years that followed, Alauddin's reign ushered in an era of stability and reform. He fortified the empire, expanded the army, restructured the economy, and built monuments of stone that still whisper his name. The Siri fortress, completed in his reign, became a symbol of vigilance, a reminder carved in rock that strength and wisdom must walk hand in hand. And when history looks back upon the Battle of Kili, it remembers more than soldiers or kings. It remembers a moment when Delhi and India stood alone against the storm and did not fall. It remembers that courage can outlast empire, that walls can rise stronger than fear, that even the mightiest of conquerors can falter before the will of those who refuse to kneel.